Okay, video 3 of 3. We started with Palantir, and that is my forecast back then, and I'm not changing it. I'm going to say to it that they made a higher low and a lower high, and now 2550 has become a pretty catalytic line. So 2560 if you want to be a little bit more accurate. If this week Palantir goes above that, they can probably tag 28, but they have resistance everywhere. And they also have support at 23. If you lose that support, you finish my circle. Trading comments, those were. Investment comments, this here is not an obvious point of entry, so it's a nope, N-O-P-E. But if somebody wants to invest for the long term, they can nibble 20% of their shares here. Selling a put to own shares also works. PNM, okay, so I just look left and use my letters. R, yes sir. S, yes ma'am. So we have support below and resistance above. 3820, that's a trigger to 3920. I'm not sure I would consider these triggers, but if you lose 36, you might lose another buck. So tight range. PUBM. I can't take this name seriously. Every time I see this, I'm thinking Acme Dynamite and things like that. Just Pubmatic. Seriously, the Binford 5000. Anybody remember what that is? If you do, you get a lollipop. So we are going into a prior fail. I can't stop laughing now. 19 and 20 were a neckline that they breached. So in theory, they're headed towards 27. So I would be buying dips for that opportunity. I don't know much about the company, but it looks like it's favored on Wall Street. So they're buying dips. Any dip into 2150 or 21 is a buy to dip from a trading perspective. PayPal, somebody said, finally, PayPal catching a bid. I wouldn't be so sure about that. PayPal is headed into a prior fail and the earnings reaction. PayPal is just pricing up the earnings reaction. That's what it's doing. I would be exiting at 69 and not looking for it to go to 75, although it can. But if I bought the dip, I'm getting out, okay? Or I would wait to buy the dip into the 61 zone, which was a base, this area right there. Okay, I traded it for us on the dip several times, including this last dip, and it made us money. I am not going to chase it up here. Qualcomm, it looks like it wants to price out the red arrow. Arrow 1, arrow 2, not so obvious, but if arrow 1 comes, half of arrow 2 is a done deal. So why am I saying this? Because these two arrows were drawn off of this red W, and you are not going to believe it. Okay, the stop out point of the red W is 17.7, which was exactly the high here, if I'm not misreading this. 17.6. No, wait. 17.6 or 7. Yeah, 7.4. So they missed it by 4 cents. The stopping point of this red W for these two arrows was tagged, but not breached. So this red W is still in play. However, I would move these two arrows higher. I would say, because the starting point was higher, I would say that arrow 1 played out, and arrow 2 is likely to only play out halfway mark, maybe. I'm not going to move it because I'd be cheating. The chart that I drew was here. So this week, they need to be above 174 in order to take a chance at taking out 178. Good company, decent company, I should say. Dips into the arrow 1, which is 158, is a buying opportunity because there's a bunch of support below. It's a bullish chart, higher lows, higher highs. These are all trading comments. Investment, do your own thing. The Qs I will talk about tonight. This is a red arrow, a red W, which is also bearish. So the Qs, simply stated, if you don't take out the highs from last week, you're going to drift lower a little bit. And then the conversation, is this a top? We're looking to find a top. We're toppy. We're looking to find a top. This red thing here is a reversion to the mean. Look at this. Reversion to the mean. Reversion to the mean. Reversion to the mean. You need to revert to the mean. If not, you've topped, which means you drift to here, bounce. Now what happens? Are you going to take that out? If not, you're going to have to work on support. So this is what I'm saying. That's what we're watching. That's not a forecast, but that's what I'm looking for. RCL, they broke out. So now you buy dips into 132. Ideally, the target is somewhere up here in the 147 zone. Oh boy, I wouldn't do it. I personally would not do it. Oh, look left. I mean, this is a monthly chart. So let's talk about that. Back in the pandemic, February 2018, they closed here, the highest monthly close at 133, and then failed miserably. When was this? December 2019, they closed at exactly the same monthly close, and I mean exactly, and then failed, oh my lord, miserably. Well, pandemic. So here they are, not closed. So at the end of this month, watch for this candle where it closes in relation to these two candles on a monthly basis. This is one full month, and this is one full month, and those are what you want to see. Where does it close? Above or below 133.72. That's going to be really important, in my opinion, at the end of the month. This is an exit point for me. Reddit, I'm not sure what you want me to tell you from the stock chart. It just started trading. It's a meme stock. I don't know anything about its valuations, so you should do your homework. I'm confident if that's where the cheaters live, you know, the people that manipulate markets, diamond hands and such, I don't want anything of it. Personally, I don't know how they're going to make money. I would never pay them a nickel. I use Reddit every once in a while. It's a jungle, but it's a very popular social media platform. So charts, not going to help you. Do homework on the fundamentals. And now this one, fundamentals, I can tell you it's a disaster waiting to happen if they don't change your ways. And I've discussed this from the fundamental basis several times. And I did discuss this last night because I was with people that work for it. And they asked me if they should add to their stock. I said, heck no, you already gave it your time. You're physically invested in it. You don't want to put more risk of yourself into it by buying its own shares. And that's because he also gets allocated stock. He wanted to buy out in the market. I'm like, no. So my beef is COGS, the cost of goods sold. If they're selling burgers, it's an overpriced burger, and the cost of the burger components are more than the price of the burger. So they have no perspective of making money or stopping the bleeding. So what I need to hear is when the management says, okay, we've been bleeding profusely, we just stopped the bleeding. Going forward, we're going to get out of that in 9 months or whatever. Once he says that, or she, I don't know, once the management says that message, the stock will skyrocket. Kind of like Uber. Uber was making a lot of money, but bleeding profusely. And then the minute they said, okay, we give up, we're going to start looking at the bottom line, is when the stock found a bottom in Wall Street. Head and Shoulders, this company stock can be in the 8s and 7s if they're not cautious. I wouldn't buy puts for it, but I definitely wouldn't add to a position. If you believe in the company, invest in it in a couple of pieces. You buy a little bit here and a little bit in a couple of years, and you see if you make money. Or 6 months, whenever price changes drastically when you add the second piece. I'm scared. I mean, they sell the cars, but they're losing. They have no way of not collapsing without cash infusion. So they need to continually borrow or issue stock. Rocket Lab, they're testing the heck out of this floor. They better not lose 390. That's all I have to say. They could bounce. I would use bounces to get out. Lower highs, trying to bounce, hold the floor. So be careful. Not great fundamentals. ROKU, I don't think I've ever seen ROKU this quiet. Let's see. We can zoom back for this long. Maybe this period of time here. But that is a, wow, that is a coiled bomb here, ready to explode. Higher or lower, I'm not sure. Solid support level, that is true. So it better not lose 61. And if they take out 67, they probably get to 73. So pretty dangerous predicament here. Earnings coming in 32 days. Be careful with ROKU. It runs really fast. I do have a position that credit put spread. It's not losing money and it's not making money and it has time on the clock. Be careful. I shared it with you. Sentinel. Disaster. Boy, nobody came to me with that one. So 22 must hold. Otherwise, you go to 1850. It is not an obvious entry spot. Hello, bird. I have a bird attacking my window. He sees himself in the window. Rallies into 2550 are reasons to exit. Schlumberger, not an obvious entry point, not an obvious point of entry. In fact, it's an exit point going into 56. For me, if I was long, I'd be out. Now, if you're an investor and you love the fact that you're green and you want to stay in it, go for it. Silver. I would not be long silver. Let's see here. Yeah, I would not be long silver. You have a prior fail that they're trying to take out, and again at multiple levels. So it's not an obvious long here. Tangible lines, 2320 for next week is going to be start of difficulty versus 22. So track those two lines. I said sellers, they went above that, but that's not a wrong statement. It's still correct. SMCI, I am fascinated by this move. P&L has improved in sales, but it's riding the coattails of the NVIDIA thing. So here's what I'm going to say. 1100 is heavy resistance zone, and 850 is must hold support. If you lose 850, you're probably going to go to 650 in a series of lower lows and lower highs. Yes, that red line down below, moving average, they're going to probably go for it if you don't take out the resistance above. So like NVIDIA, it can make a higher high and an all-time high. But unlike NVIDIA, it's a little bit more precarious on the lower end. Okay, it's not NVIDIA. So if you lose 853, beware that it becomes a sell the rip mode, sell rallies. Who is this? SN. Yeah, it's $1 billion company. So do your homework on the company itself to find out what it does. Technology offers solution for consumers around the world. Very, very weird. Yeah, I don't know anything about it. Technically, you could argue for a rising wedge breakdown, a hideous rising wedge breakdown of about 20%, but it's difficult. You do have buyers at 56.50 and some at 53.50. If you're an investor and you can't book your profits here, then you know something about it and you're entitled. So make sure you know your stuff. Technically, it's an exit point. Snowflake, you got a lot of relief on this rally. If you had a problem trade, I suggested people lighten up on it, but it's still okay. Technically speaking, from a delta perspective on the sold put spread, it's still alive. It's not healthy, but it's alive. So I could close it, take a little loss if I'm worried about it, or at least cut it in half the position and not take a loss. In hindsight, if I didn't need to close it, then I'd be okay. You do have buyers through the low and sellers through 168. Would I hold calls? Probably not. Can I stay in my credit put spreads? I can. Depends on my portfolio. I have a bearish portfolio, so I personally can stay in my credit put spread. SOFI, I got us some profits, I think. On the way up, everybody wanted to talk SOFI. Can I buy it now? Can I buy it now? I was like, now you're going to buy it when it's up in a 10 and looking to break out to 12. No, I said I would look for sub $7 and sub $6 entries. So you got a sub $7 entry. They're selling rallies, so be careful. There's no, it is conceivable that it's at 6.4 in the next month or two. I'm just saying that because it's not out of the woods. And the P&L is okay. It's not a disaster, but it's okay. I thought I saw a headline about student loan forgiveness. I guess we don't care about it anymore. SoundHound, this is a company that has the attention of NVIDIA, and that's why it has the attention of investors everywhere. Do your homework on that opportunity. The P&L itself currently, and the stock price says this is not an obvious point of entry. Rallies are going to be sold into 8, and I think it can go to 4, left alone from headlines of NVIDIA. So I'm going to draw lines that have nothing to do with the NVIDIA side. If this happens, it's going to be met with sellers, and if this happens, they're going to lose footing, and if they do, they're going to dip, try to recover it, and then finish the job. That is a potential path. Okay, so I'm going to put it globally. So, and why would I say that? Because I have 6 days worth of resistance selling right here. That is not an opinion, that's fact. What happens the next time they approach? Are these sellers are going to come out? I do have support down here. That's why I put a little kink there. So nothing I just said about SOUN has to do with its financial viability. So do your homework on why is NVIDIA interested in it and will it buy it. TDOC. Question marks. I have question marks. So this area is okay. So the comments were, if we lose 19, we come down to this area and we have support, and that's what's going on. They triggered the head and shoulders. This is the target, and now they're trying to hold support. Now, if you lose the lows from last couple weeks, you're going to go to 12 or lower, and you don't have any support for ever or quite a bit. No, for a long time. Is this the pandemic low? No, this is the 2016 low. Holy moly. Okay. So there's something broken with this company. If it loses 14.3, get out, because I can't tell you where it goes. It could be $1, it could be $5. So I honestly don't know. It could be $5. So I wouldn't double down here if I'm red already. TDW. Huge breakout. And support zones below, I'll tell you where they are: 86, 84, 81, and anything below 78. Is there any resistance? Oh yeah. Oh my gosh. Okay. I don't know what to make of these stocks. Decent P&L. You don't have any recent resistance, so it's an open air. I don't know how to trade it, to be honest. Just buy the dip. I gave you the levels of where to buy it. The resistance is just too old to use, but I can tell you it has failed miserably up above these. So unless this was a SPAC of sorts, that P&L is crazy. Team, I'm long, and I don't think I'm at a stop out point, although I need green days for a team, and it wasn't green on Friday. So it could be headed to 180. This is my credit put spread, but I should know that it could be headed to 180, 182. Okay? Technically, that would be okay. The P&L is fine. So if I'm an investor, there's nothing to do. I wouldn't add. If I were an investor and looking to add, I would add under 168. Not here. Target. I would not chase the breakout after it happened. It was on our get long list for a while, and I don't think I entered it, so we missed that entry, but it doesn't matter. This is not an obvious point of entry, so that's a nope for me, an OPE. And 180 looks like a pivotal zone, give or take $5. For me, visually, if I'm looking at this stock, it's easier to get to 156 than it is 185, right? So use that logic. So it's easier to get to this area than it is to bust out again. The TLT, very important concept with regards to those who believe that the Fed is going to cut 3 times. I would be shocked if the Fed is cutting 3 times, and I wouldn't be surprised to see them cut 0 times. If they do cut, that means we had a hiccup in the market, and they might cause it in order to get the cover to do that. So this is will react directly with those headlines. That's the only reason I mentioned the Fed cuts, because this represents the price of the bond, so it's 1 over the yield. So if rates rise, this falls. If rates fall, rate cuts, this rises. So this needs to be at 98 if the Fed is cutting rates. It's plain and simple. It's black and white. If you believe the Fed is cutting rates, you need to be long the TLT. it will go to 98. You buy shares, or you buy in the money calls, or you sell put spreads to buy shares or calls. And I believe I had that conversation live with people down here. I may have even sent it out as a write-up. And if it does get to 98, it might get to 102 or 103, which means the Fed is in full-blown QE mode again, like they did in 2018. Tesla, do not touch this thing as an investment. It's at risk of getting to 140 in a series of lower lows and lower highs. That is a technical comment, not a valuation comment, and it can be erased. If Tesla gets a headline that gets it above 180, it can start a bottoming process. 180 is important this week, 174 is important this week, and 160 is important this week. I've been dead on this company for active traders, and so I'm repeating. If it doesn't rise above these hurdles I just gave you, it's probably going to continue drifting lower highs and lower lows, probably into the 140s eventually. TWLO, I like this company. I will go long on dips. This dip was okay, but not great. Now, 63.5 is a trigger to get you to 65.5. And then if they dip and hold 63 after that, they can even drift higher towards 68. Bunch of support below. Disaster scenario if you lose 55.6. So let's zoom out to see. Oh my gosh. So this is a daily chart for TWLO. Strong support. Buying the dip down there. We're long via something. I can't remember. Sold put spreads. I wouldn't hold calls. I would sell puts on dips into 56 and 50. Okay. I'm confident of that. UAL, the same comments of DAL. It's above levels that I'm comfortable chasing. In fact, check this out. Yeah, this area has been in contention from here to 49. So the next couple of bucks are going to be slated with sprinkled with sellers. So there are sellers willing inside this rectangle, and there are sellers at 49. Plus or minus $1 from prior behavior. Look left. 149 has been pivotal for a long time. So be careful of it, going long into it. But they do have a buy to dip mode. So if you get a dip into 43.5, you might want to get long. So if you lose a couple of bucks, $2.50, $3, enter long for a trade. Sorry. I don't want to invest in airlines. UBS. Wow, UBS. Wow. Okay, so a breach of 23 caused the breakout. That could be 36. So there's no short-term resistance, and 36 could be the end result of this thing here. I don't know if I want to chase it. What is this? Yeah, do your homework. How can you make more money in income in net than you took in revenue? Lawsuit, settlement, what? That's pretty strange. So some shenanigans there. Do your homework. Technically, you have sellers at 32 and buyers at 30. Upwork. This is like Fiverr or something. Upwork has a lot of sellers above 1380. So if this stock gets to 1380 and I'm trading it, I'm out. Whether I was long from 1380 and I got recovered my profits, I would be out. Or if I was long from here, I would be exiting at 1380. It looks like it's a lot easier to lose 1160. So if we lose the support from last week, we're going to 1050. Let me zoom out a little bit. Yeah, totally doable. Earnings in 31 days. So we have a series of lower highs and lower lows that might continue into 1050. USO. That's the price of oil, basically, or at least it moves with the price of oil. A breakout happened from 73. The target of that is still above us. 79 was close enough, I guess. This is old comments, but check it out. So back in 2023, the end of it, November, or at least October, I said we have resistance here and we have a likely scenario here. So whatever spikes happened, like this thing here, it played out. This was a forecast. I copied this, moved it over to here, and it played out. But then they fought over it, and they lost it. And they tried to recover it, and they couldn't. And they tried to recover it, and they couldn't. They fought over it, and I would argue that they're still fighting over it. So they're inside this zone that has been important since last year. So if you get a dip into 74 or 75, you will find buyers, and you have sellers at 79. So getting here is one thing. Coming out of here is something else. But they are buying dips in an ascending channel. And that goes towards the cutting rates thing. I think inflation is not over. Valero, like Devon, Stratosphere, I would be out in a heartbeat. It's a breakout. It has more upside, technically, but not for me. So if I'm a trader, I'm out. If I'm an investor, I'm not entering new positions here, and I would lock some profits. If I'm a momentum trader, then have at it, in and out all day. WBD, I said to buy shares, starter positions, just because it's a descending wedge. Max Mini keyboard. Okay, that's the first. Let me plug in the keyboard. Descending wedge, so it could break out in a violent way. I said a starter position. I wouldn't add to it if I took it. If it collapses, then I will add to it then. It's a fairly new spin-off, so we don't know exactly how it's going to behave on Wall Street. Walmart, I am short. I would be short if I'm not. If you force me to trade Walmart, I'll buy a put spread. That's it. And wait, like JP Morgan. I'm definitely not starting positions here. I don't care what anybody thinks about it. It's a good company and all. Wolf, I will not trade it. I refuse. I've nailed the calls on it. I made good calls on it, but I never was able to make money on it. And in fact, look at this here. This is a copy of somewhere else, and I moved it here. So it is playing out to fruition as far as targets, and it's hard to trade. It's very illiquid in the options. Technically, there's nothing to do. You have a hard buyer at 24 and a hard seller at 30. If you're a long-term investor, that's something else. But this P&L is not great. So you better study the company inside and out. If they take out 30, they go to 34. If they lose 24, they go to 21. Simple. The energy sector. I'm short Exxon, and it is 1/4 of this. So be careful. Starting longs in the XLE, this is a stopping point. Now the exciting part is if the XLE breaks out of 96, it has a huge rally. So I'm thinking to myself, what would be the valuation of Exxon and Chevron if we have that huge rally? So it doesn't make sense. It's too good to be true, but I respect it. So the way I'm short is via a debit put spread, right? Or a credit call spread, something mild. I'm not short the stock outright. I'm rarely short the stock outright, okay? So we will update ourselves on that one. A breach of the high will cause a huge rally, like up to these levels up here. So I wouldn't hold calls for it. Speaking of Exxon, look at it, right? It's going into a prior fail, and it's outdoing Chevron. Look at this. This is not humans. This is somebody accumulating positions. 331 is when a lot of people do what they call window dressing. Maybe this is part of it. Wall Street never ceases to amaze me with all that BS. But I am short via a credit call spread that I shared. It's not losing money, believe it or not. But I will stop out. I won't let it get out of hand. And it's going into a prior fail. If I own calls, I'm out. YELP. We discussed it yesterday. I never use it. And a lot of the stuff in there, half of it is fake. So we'll see how that plays out. 39.50 is a catalyst to 41, where it's an exit point for me. And you have a bunch of buyers below. So anything below 37.50, hard buyers. Anything so far has been a failure into 39.30. So you exceed either of those two, you're going to go in that direction. So above 39.30, 39.50, you burst higher $1.50 to 2, and you have support scattered through 36.50 below. Tradable. Investment-wise, do your homework, buy shares, forget about it. I don't know what this is. Ammonia? What? Okay. Great rally, right back into a problem area. If I got long here, I'm out here so quick, it's not even funny. If I'm starting to get long here, I'm likely going to face some selling immediately. So the resistance is old, but it's fierce. Be careful. It's a buy the dip mode for me. So if it falls into 19, maybe, or 18, even better. Trading comments versus an investment comment. And we're back to Apple. What? Did I miss something? How is that possible? Wow, we cut through this pretty quickly. Well, not really. It's almost 9, so it's been 2 hours. Folks at home, look out for the video at night.